Hello everyone, John Tabor from UDS, Brown & Brown Dealer Services. John Maxwell said, change is inevitable, growth is optional. As a trainer and coach, I'm encouraging people to change all the time. The problem is most people resist change because change is uncomfortable. Recently I had a person in our F&I certification course who was a great example of this. This attendee was an experienced F&I person who was sent to the course by his GM because his production had fallen off a little bit and the GM hoped it would recharge his batteries. It wasn't long before I could see he wasn't putting in the effort and he wasn't keeping up with the others in class. He then refused to participate in a role play exercise, so I decided to take a break, pull him aside and ask him what was going on. When I asked him, he told me that no matter what we discussed in class, he was going to go back to the dealership and do it the way he had always done it. He then said, besides, all of this makes me uncomfortable. I said, what do you mean? He went on to tell me that even though he could see that what we were doing might be a better process than his, he didn't want to try it because he didn't want to be uncomfortable in front of his customers. He then went on to tell me he couldn't afford the drop in pay that resulted when he had tried to change his process in the past. In his mind, the short-term discomfort of changing his process just wasn't worth the possible long-term gain in increased production the change may result in. I shared with him that, like John Maxwell says, change is inevitable, and that right now he was able to make a choice. In the future, maybe not so much. He asked me what I meant. I asked him what he thought would happen if he didn't improve his performance. He responded, well, they'd probably let me go. I shared with him if they did, that would be a big change for him and there'd be a lot of discomfort in that outcome. He laughed a little and agreed. I said, it sounded like no matter what he chose to do, there was going to be discomfort. So I suggested he choose the small discomfort that came with changing a process versus the big discomfort that came from changing a job. He smiled and told me I was a better trainer than psychologist and said he'd give it a try. How many of us resist change? The answer is we all do. Knowing this, the challenge for us as F&I managers is to choose the discomfort that comes from making adjustments in our process or word tracks that are needed to realize our potential because we understand it's short term. To grow professionally, you'll have to change along the way. It's inevitable. How do you know you're growing professionally as an F&I manager? Being uncomfortable from time to time is a great sign. And that's your tip of the week. Email me at jtabor@udsdealerservices.com for a transcript, or if you'd like to enroll in our free newsletter.